Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette said this on 93.7 The Fan, saying, quote, "At this point in the season, I know the Steelers probably not going to start Jaylen Warren, but I think Jaylen Warren needs to start seeing the bulk of the carries and the bulk of the snaps here. It just seems like Najee's lost a step or two, maybe just because of the wear and tear. I think it's time for Jaylen to step up and take over as RB1. Now, let me lay out some stats here. Since averaging 7.6, 4.9, and 6.0 yards per carry in his 3 100-yard games, consecutive 100-yard games, Najee Harris's best game since has been 70 yards against the Bengals when he averaged 4.7 yards per run, okay? Outside of that, his best yards per carry has been 3.5, with 3 of his 6 performances being under 3 yards per carry, obviously with his worst game coming against the Eagles. Jaylen Warren has not had the workload that we thought he was going to have coming into this. Part of it was due to injury. The other part is definitely due to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their strange concept of we tie ourselves to one player and we do not move from that player. But he's averaged 4.1 yards per carry this season on 91 rushing attempts with 371 yards. I'll ask you this before I give my thoughts. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers start giving Jaylen Warren a bulk of the load here? Is that their solution to the running game moving forward?
First and foremost, they need the offensive line to perform at a little bit of a better clip. But when it comes to the backs in the backfield, I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Najee Harris. Now, typically, this is the time of the year that he plays his best. And for a while there, he was playing above what he had typically played in the early portions of the season. You mentioned the 300-yard games. That's when we were saying, man, this is a different version of Najee Harris. This is a Najee Harris that might set a personal best in his 4th year, and it wasn't a scrub in his first 3. So, but since then, it hasn't been good. So, where I would go with this, I would go to Jaylen being the primary. And I know that might be a take that people don't like, but I just think he's more versatile and he can do more things than Najee Harris can. I mean, Najee has been good at times, but I think Jaylen right now, especially if your offensive line is struggling, Jaylen's a guy that's shown that even though smaller, is better through contact than Najee Harris. So I would go with Jaylen Warren.
I agree. I'm going Jaylen all day. And I don't think this means take Najee out of the lineup. I don't think this means, less than a 50-50 split. I think at most it should be a 50-50 split, and I'd feel very confident in that. It's just give Jaylen the opportunity to be the guy to set the momentum and let Najee do what he does, and that's hit somebody, gain a couple of yards. If that's all you're getting is 3 yards, just get 3 yards and set him up in moments to get those 3 yards. Use Najee as the receiving back. I'd be very okay with that. He excels in the receiving game, and he does well in open space when you give him those opportunities. Jaylen, his contact balance is crazy. His vision is great. I mean, maybe not perfect, but I would say better than Najee's. And he's got more explosive to him. That's what you're looking for. You need something. You need some pop, and the Steelers offense has none of it. And at this point, you're working with an offense that doesn't have a passing game because their star wide receiver is out, and Russell Wilson can't seem to get anybody else clicking. And a running game that's doing nothing, and when they are doing something, it's so slow rolled that it's not really gaining the momentum and the speed that you need it to. That's what Jaylen Warren could bring to this offense, is just some burst, some explosion, some spark. That's what the Steelers need right now. And I also think this, just like you said, it comes down to the offensive line, but if Arthur Smith isn't going to change the play calls, if he's just going to totally ignore the fact that what he's doing is not helping Najee Harris, because that's what's happening here. Is I get it. Najee's not playing his best football this season. And, for that 3-game stretch, everybody was talking about Najee's got to come back. You got to pay Najee Harris. Got to pay Najee Harris. Got to pay Najee Harris. Well, since then, nobody's saying that. It's been a while since we've had to answer that question here on All Steelers Talk. And I mean, we talk about Cole Holcomb more than we talk about Najee Harris. Let's be honest. If Arthur Smith is just going to ignore the fact that this is not working and not change anything about it, because I don't think Najee's a bad running back. I just don't think he's in the offense that works for him. You got to try somebody else that maybe it does work for. And maybe that's Jaylen Warren. And maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't work out. Who knows? But you might as well try it out. you might as well give it an opportunity to say, is this going to be better? Because the only other solution is to just keep doing what you're doing and it not working. There's no risk. This is not, don't fix something if it's not broken. It's broken. Try to fix it. The whole thing's broken. The whole structure, the house of cards has come tumbling down in every aspect of your offense. Try to fix it and see if it works and see if Jaylen Warren is the building block here to say, okay, great. And when everybody wants to talk, well, you keep them fresh for next year. You keep them fresh for next year. Who cares? If you're hunting for a Super Bowl right now, if you're 10-4 and you believe that you're a contender this season, which you probably are, use your best running back. Try to have a guy out there that you think could do better things, bigger, better, splashier things. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, at least you know right now that that's not going to work next year either, and you got to explore some other option. But it makes no sense, in my opinion, to just keep pounding a dead horse and saying, yeah, well, there's another 2-yard run. There's another 2-yard run. There's another 2-yard run. No, put Jaylen out there. See if it works. See if the pitches work. See if the up the middle bursts work. See if he could make something happen out of nothing. Because, again, during those 3 weeks where Najee was killing it, he was making something out of nothing a lot. Now there's nothing ever, and Najee can't get anything to go. Maybe Jalen's the fresh legs that you need at this point in the season. I don't know, but I think you got to test it out. And I don't think there's an excuse really not to test it out. Now, that being said, I think we could both agree that's not going to happen. You know, the Steelers are a team that are pretty stuck in their ways, have always been stuck in their ways. And just like they aren't going to change the play calling to make it work for Najee, they're not going to change the player to make it work for the play calling. So they're just going to struggle through the offense as they move forward. Is that a big concern? Like, what's your level of concern if the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot figure out their running game for the rest of the season?
I mean, at that point, you might as well hang it up, because we've heard since Arthur Smith was hired, how does he want to win football games? The same way Mike Tomlin does, is setting the tone up front and then the passing game being secondary. He wants to be a run-first outfit, and that's what the Steelers have been historically. I understand that, and that's what the Steelers have been built to do, simply because of, well, who the running backs are versus who the wide receivers are on this team. But if they can't run the football, if they can't establish the run in any of these games, then you might as well hang it up, because you're not going to have a successful day on offense, and the defense is not going to be able to carry you through an entire AFC playoff race without any support from the offense and without getting off the field when it comes to the offense, because that's the reason the Steelers were succeeding early this season. It's because the running game was working and the defense wasn't out there every single time like they were against Philadelphia. If they can't run, it's going to look a lot like it did at Lincoln Financial.
100%. You're going to find yourself up against the Patrick Mahomes, where you need to control that clock. You need to control that game. You need to make sure that he doesn't get 2 minutes with the football and an opportunity to win a football game. And you're not going to be able to do that by saying, all right, moon balls all day, every day. That's all we got here. Let's see if they can work. No, you're going to need a ground game. You're going to need somebody to get 4 or 5 yards a clip. Maybe that's Jaylen Warren. Maybe it's not. But I'll tell you what, right now it's not Najee Harris. Right now, it's certainly not Cordero Patterson, and they're almost out touching him. And it makes almost no sense. And if you got a guy that you believe in, you might as well give him an opportunity. Again, I don't know if the Steelers believe in him like that, but they should. And I think the rest of us kind of see that as we move forward.